people gone so wrong? They've gone wrong because they don't understand, and they have a strong willingness to not understand the mechanics of addiction. And I'm now going to explain the mechanics of addiction to you. It works like this. In a wonderful black and white movie called Key Largo, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, and Lionel Barrymore are held hostage during a storm in a wonderful old hotel in the Florida Keys. And they're held hostage by Edward G. Robinson, who's the gun guy. He's the bad guy. And Claire Trevor, I think, won an Oscar for playing his gun moll. She was great. Anyway, at one point, after they've been hostage for hours and hours and hours, finally Bogey, who's the hero, says to Edward G. Robinson, I know what you want. I know what Rocco wants. You want more. And Edward G. Robinson goes, yeah, more, that's right. And that's the mechanics of addiction. What does an addict want? An addict wants more. More what? More library cards? More tickets to the opera? More tickets to the Canucks? More children? More responsibility? More insurance on the house he doesn't own? More friends? No. An addict wants more drugs. That's what an addict wants. So, years ago, when I ran my treatment center, people used to say, well, what about free heroin? And I'd say, wonderful idea. Of course, I was joking. Wonderful idea, as long as I can deliver it. And people would say, what does that mean? And I'd say, I want to deliver the free heroin to the addict's door. Not that he has a door. He doesn't actually have a door. Addicts don't have doors. They don't have addresses, actually. Okay? But I want to deliver it. And you know how I want to deliver it? In a 6-foot pine box, filled to the top with heroin and one needle. Go ahead, make my day. Because addicts are trying to kill themselves. Addicts are all suicidal. They're all trying to kill themselves. And all they want is more drugs. So the mayor, the nutty mayor, the worst mayor in the history of Vancouver, has a program now called CAST, in which he wants to give substitute drugs to addicts, in particular to prostitutes. He also wants to open co-op brothels. He wants to further enslave young girls. That's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to reach out and say, Ellen, come with me. Let's see if we can walk away from the life, which is what I did for many years. And the program that I created is still running in Manitoba, and people are still reaching out and saying, Ellen, you want to leave the life? Come on, let's go do this. I'll come tell you a quick story. I guess it was about the second year we were in business. Somebody came to me in my office and said, after a while they couldn't do this because we had so many people. We had over 100 people. But at one point we had about 20, 30 people. They said, you know that girl we just let in yesterday? And I said, no. And I said, well, she's upstairs. Her name is Carol. And she's doing the whole Man with the Golden Arm thing. That's an old Frank Sinatra movie. She's freaking out, and she's demanding pills, and she's demanding doctors, and so on. And I said, yeah, okay, fine. So I went upstairs, and here's this girl, startlingly beautiful, brilliant, really, really smart. She stayed with us for 2 years, clean and sober, left clean and sober. She's huddling under the covers, you know, and she's having this tantrum, this public tantrum. She wants this, she wants that. She's making demands. So I went in, I said, oh, hi, Carol, my name's David. Listen, have you got a pair of slippers? What? I said, you have a house coat, I need your help. Could you help me do something? What? What are you talking about? I said, have you got some slippers? Yeah. I said, well, put your slippers on. I need your help. This was in a beautiful big house in Lower Shaughnessy. In fact, just 3 minutes from here at 16th and Arbutus. A mansion, which we had bought. We didn't discuss it with anybody. We just bought it. We just moved in, and we just ran our program. So we didn't have committees. We didn't have to relate to every agency in town. We didn't have to get the mayor's permission. We didn't have to talk to the premier. We were a private society. We bought a house, we moved in, and we did our work. Okay? You can't do that anymore. That'll never happen again. We were lucky. Anyways, so I said, Carol, come with me. And she came downstairs, and the dining room was very spectacularly beautiful with built-in bookcases and so on, and chandelier. I said, look, the kitchen crew is getting ready for lunch. There's kids out doing talks at school programs. The guys are running the gas station, because we owned a gas station at Broadway and Waterloo. and other people are doing books, and other people are planning programs, and we're all busy, and I handed her a broom. And I said, we didn't have a chance to clean the dining room after breakfast, so could you do me a favor? Could you just clean this up? Sure, Dave. That was the end of Carol's story, or the beginning. She took the broom, she cleaned up the dining room. I went away, forgot about her. Someone came in half an hour later, whatever, offered her a cigarette, they had a cup of coffee, and she got involved. Difficult, isn't it? Complicated, isn't it? You see, the reason that the people like the mayor and the premier and politicians and all of the millions of social workers who are spending millions of your dollars in the downtown east side don't want to get involved, and they want to give people substitute drugs and they want to give them needles and so on, is because they don't want to be involved in the hard, tedious work. Leaving an addiction takes a day to leave the physical addiction, but it's a whole life of addiction. It's a whole mental set. The addiction is about your emotions, about your spirituality, it's about your sexuality, it's about your work, it's about your personal habits. Did you know that addicts have never met a vegetable? Addicts don't eat vegetables. They wouldn't know a vegetable if they fell in a vat of them. Addicts don't know how to make love. They don't know the mechanics of love making. They don't know anything. Addicts are by and large dopes. Dope fiends who are dopes. Okay? That doesn't mean they are to be hated. I don't hate them. I worked with them for 10 years. Some of them are my heroes. It's heroic when someone casts off this yoke of stupidity and becomes a citizen. It's magnificent to watch. It's beautiful to watch. I'll tell you a quick story. Here's a guy named Archie, one-armed native Indian. When we met him, he was holding up a lamppost at the corner of Main and Hastings. He grew up in Kenora. Kenora, at one time, was probably the greatest hellhole in Canada for Native Canadians. It was a disaster, just all drunkenness and lunacy. And Archie was one-armed because when he was 18, he was drunk and tried to hop a freight train, and he missed, of course, so he missed an arm. So Archie was an epileptic, he was a jailbird, and he was a psychiatric patient, and that was his profile. We interviewed him for about 4 hours, and at the end we put our hand on his shoulder and jokingly said, "Arise, my child, and never use medication again." He said, "No, but I'm an epileptic." We said, "No, you're not. Forget about it." I knew Archie for 4 years, okay? In the 4 years that I knew him, he had one small seizure. He got married, he had 2 kids, he never had a grand mal seizure again. It was all nonsense, all right? That's how I met Archie. Let me give you a different picture of Archie. A few years later, we decided we wanted to run a children's camp at our hotel on Salt Spring Island. So we went to the city government and we said, look, we'd like to run a children's camp for children of welfare families who can't afford to send their kids to summer camp. So would you give us a bit of money? And they said, yeah, but you're taking the kids out of our jurisdiction. And we said, no, you don't get it. They're Vancouver kids, and we're going to take them to Salt Spring Island for a week. And they said, well, yeah, but you're taking them out of our jurisdiction. We said, okay, forget it. Forget we ever mentioned that. So we just got more hot dogs and more cocoa and whatever we needed. Now here's Archie. There's a great image, a sandwich, a reality sandwich of a real human being. I described how he came into our foundation. A few years later, I'm standing on the cliff overlooking the Oyster Bay below our hotel. And I see Archie, one arm, in these awful purple cutoffs, you know, walking through the water, and he's pulling this rope, okay? And I hear all this noise somewhere. I can't see what's going on until he clears the bushes. And what's on the rope? A raft. And what's on the raft? About 8 kids. And he's pulling these kids. And he's running this camp for kids. Do you understand? It's that simple, but it takes work. It takes work to actually help people recover. And it can be done. It can be done by you. It can be done by your children. It can be done by your cousins. But it takes work. It's an insult to hand an addict or an alcoholic another drink and say, I'm helping you. To hand them a needle and say, go ahead.